Oh, we're cooked all right. And the way it happens is that we trust these folks who sound so much like who we are. If we're Republicans, we know that the Democrats are the evil opposing team and anything they do is bad for the country and they must be stopped at any cost. And of course, the same thing with the Democrats about Republicans. The party leadership then puts a face to what the opposition stands for. They give us an image with the Republicans labeling Democrats as these misled socialists or communists like George Soros. And the Democrats are duped by the labeling of Republicans as prosperous Nazis like the Koch brothers. And of course, we believe that the leaders of whichever team we're on would never lie to us. So you wonder why nothing gets done with these parties in Washington. These political parties can't afford, though, to let both sides of the aisle agree, since they're big businesses that raise their money off the dissent that they create. And a divided country can't fight back against those who have the organization and history of misdirecting these folks that got elected, who can't provide common sense, business sense, and moral sense simple solutions to our problems. So the parties get folks elected who then have to pay back the folks who supported the party. That's why Congress doesn't provide tax credits to consumers to stimulate demand and industrial development that creates jobs, rather than giving stimulus money to big businesses to provide executive bonuses and inflated salaries. It's because big business contributes big money to the parties who provides the elected officials. And we wouldn't need government controlling health care if we just give people the capability to afford it. But then we'd have to stop the government from being influenced by big insurance, pharmaceutical, and healthcare companies who employ an incredible army of lobbyists, and instead maybe have our national health programs provide preventative and early diagnostic care to save lives, save money, and keep insurance rates low, rather than just take that simplistic course of nationalization, with Democrats falling in line without reading the bills creating it, and Republicans not offering any alternatives. Why do they do that? Because they need permission of those controlling our government to change the plan that they're told to follow. That's why something with so much potential for good as the most advanced healthcare system in the world, we have difficulty providing for our own systems, citizens. And what about using our advancements in medicine to sell healthcare to the world as we advance its benefits to us? Maybe having these other countries become our partners by bartering for things we need. Having allies without having to bribe their leaders. Having folks like the Saudis trade us for oil for all the stuff we provide to them. And help create trading partners in areas like West Africa that has a wealth of natural resources, are in desperate need for our medicine. And revisit the partnerships that we used to have in South America that have been all but destroyed while they're citizens. They're citizens who have the capability to continue to come to our country for their medical care. That's where they come here. We need to become a leader in the world again that draws countries to us for all the benefits we can offer them beyond just our military. You know, we spend $300 billion on a war against terror and $3 billion on the war against cancer, with 14 times more people dying from cancer than terrorists. Okay, that's a simplistic statistic, but it's worth thinking about. Oh, we also spent $3 billion on that ill-conceived Cash for Clunkers program, the same that we spent to fight cancer. And look at all the advances we've reached with just our current medical investments, and how increases in fundings can finally provide all the cures for cancer and all those other diseases affecting the populations of the world. Medical scientists have said for $300 billion, we can do that. You know, we need to consider the personal terror being faced by families dealing with what are right now incurable, heartbreaking diseases and conditions. Who knows, maybe these elected officials who make those decisions could discover enough corruption and waste in those no-bid contracts giving out to fight our wars, and the bribes we give to those countries who end up eventually being our enemies anyway, will choose to spend the money to provide a cure for every kind of disease. It'd be a great gift to the world, with a greater return than we've seen from our recent conflicts. I'm just saying that there's a role for government, and if we measure priorities by effectiveness and efficiencies, and and do away with the waste and not make decisions based on what lobbyists tell us to do, we can accomplish a lot more for our country than we are today. And we need leaders who believe it can reinvent itself to provide us services without creating a deficit of resources, by using new ideas that seem to be missing from our nation's capital. Then we can involve the private sector to recreate the industrial giant of an economy from years ago. Yeah, we can get excited again, doing stuff that makes common sense, moral sense, and business sense that joined together will provide political sense by not being controlled by big business. Of course, then we can tackle the burdens of our country that are caused by big government, like maybe even finally reforming the tax code. God knows we should have done that a long time ago. What happened to that fair tax? We need something that'll eliminate the IRS. Anything to get rid of that heartless, insensitive, wasteful, and even corrupt organization that has plagued average Joes since our politicians allowed them such control over our lives. Other than that, they seem like a nice group of people. And what is the hold that the IRS has on those we elected to not permit them to change what's going on? Is it extortion or threats? Is there a group of constituents who defend the IRS for all the good they do? What could cause all of them to have such fear to not do anything? With all the complaining during all the campaigning all these years, why has not one member of Congress put the bill in that gets rid of them? It's just another reason we need to start over. You know, it costs us taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars to file tax returns, added to the costs and corruptibility of government bureaucracy. And what about our anxiety and time wasted? Can you imagine how good it'll feel not to have to go through paying taxes in April every year? We need to do something now. Maybe even a flat tax, but do something. Or maybe a consumption tax that protects low and middle incomes and removes tax breaks and loopholes to corporations, but causes everyone to pay something, including those in our country illegally. That way everybody gets treated fairly. Something. Anything would be better than what we got. I mean, how corrupt and arrogant have we let the IRS get? They've not only attempted to destroy their political enemies, but they've destroyed personal lives and businesses, and have even destroyed the emails that could provide proof of their corruption. And they've been exposed right in front of a Congress that could do nothing more to them but then scold them. Scold them. Do you really think this government is controlled by the government anymore? And if the Founding Fathers were asked about the IRS, they would have put them on the first boat back to England. After all we've accomplished from the beginnings of our escape from tyranny, we have now evolved back again to being under its control. You know, all this stuff is a lot to do. It's a lot to do. And that's the problem. We can't do it all. But the people who run for office say they can, and then they don't, either because they can't or won't. But through all the years, these same issues get presented and dumped by these cowards in Congress. They take our money, and they take our votes, and they make promises they will never keep. We can't wait any longer. We need to throw them all out. You see, this stuff doesn't matter to them once they're in office. And they always get to point the finger of blame at somebody else. Just look at the polls before Election Day, when 90% of the country thinks we need to get rid of everyone in office right now except their congressman, because he's pointing his finger at somebody else, and we believe it. I guess the best way to look at it is not to focus on who the next president or congressman needs to be, but figure out why the past ones didn't do their job. No sense in just putting people back in a system that doesn't work. There's too many distractions. There's a lot going on in Washington, you know, but it's not Disneyland. At least to us it's not. I mean, they made campaign promises. They know what we want and what they said they would do. It's just that they get back there and there's all that influence, all that power. People waiting on them hand and foot, going from begging for our votes one day the people begging for theirs the next. It's human nature to feel you're above it all. I read where there are over 14,000 registered lobbyists that spend over $4 billion lobbying members of Congress. $4 billion. That figured out to 30 lobbyists and $6 million for every member of Congress. What could they possibly do or buy for that amount of attention and money? Well, they're paying Democrats and Republicans for the protection of their industry's interests while they piss on us. I guess if you wonder why big business is protected, or why we don't have tort reform, or why the government looked the other way while investment firms made a shambles of our economy, or why all that money went to corporations to save jobs while the unemployed gave up looking, just look at who the lobbyists are giving money to. And you know, most of it goes to the leadership on both sides of the aisle because they're the ones who really control what bills pass or not. They're in charge. And if somebody wants to run for office and get their party support, they have to choose who they're going to vote for leader ahead of time, or they won't get the support they need to win the primary. So we know that it's next to impossible to elect a person who would put our interests ahead of the interests of their party's leadership because the system's corrupt. And then if they want to have a chance in their party's primary, they need to hire those businesses to run campaigns that have insider support of their party, or they don't get enough of the party's help to win a primary. Well, that's also corrupt. You see, as crazy as it sounds to us patriotic idealists, making money is a prime motivator for these businesses we call political parties. So now we have the decision to either keep everything the same with the same people in charge, or change the rules of the game.